Okay, take 3. Take 1, I forgot to plug my microphone in, so I wasted 20 minutes talking to no one. Take 2, I forgot to hit record and realized 10 minutes into it, so let's hope third time's the charm. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. And welcome to my first ever Diablo 4 video. I played a lot of Diablo 3, I played a lot of Path of Exile. If that's the type of content you like, then stick around. If you like minions, then definitely stick around. If you're like me and you have the itch to play minions, but you still do not have your Ring of Mendeln after 200 hours, then this is most likely how you're going to go about making a viable minion character. I won't waste anyone's time, let's get straight into it. The helmet, I'd say there's 3 mandatory stats: cooldown reduction, life, and armor. Life on kill is just what I have. It's getting too expensive to reroll the helmet. You could possibly go for intelligence for some extra damage, or plus 3 ranks to decrepify to increase the amount your enemies are slowed by. That would be a great choice. The chest piece, you want damage reduction, armor, and then life or another damage reduction would be good. The 2 damage reductions I have on here, the fortify and shadow damage one, are quite bad. The fortify one's okay, but damage reduction from close, damage reduction from distant, or just flat damage reduction would be much better choices. I just haven't found a better chest and I can't be bothered trading for one. The aspect we have on here is increased armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage. This is really strong, especially when paired with Bone Storm, which attacks like a bajillion times per second. You just have basically permanent 50% increased armor while you're in combat. It's really good. I don't think I mentioned this one, but we have skeletal mages as the aspect on the helmet. The gloves here are okay, nothing special. The attack speed is great, the lucky hit is okay, the critical strike chance is okay, and the chance to restore primary resource is whatever. You could get some intelligence on here. Critical damage would be another option as well, but that's about it for the gloves. Your minions don't scale that well with critical strikes, so if you can come up with something better, that'd be good. Otherwise, this works, I suppose. Pants, damage reduction, and a bit of minion life. There's not a heap of sources for minion life, so I felt it was worth getting it on the pants and on one of my rings. You can get up to 50% minion life just for one stat on your pants. I think it's worth it to me, but each to their own. The aspect we have on here is the Bone Storm gives you a barrier equal to 5% of your life for 10 seconds. This is really strong. Basically, we just dive into a whole pack of monsters, corpse tendril them all around us, and then the Bone Storm's just hitting them. And you know, our barrier, I've seen my barrier get up to about 7,000, and it just stays there. Like, you take a hit, and then the barrier regenerates straight away. And Bone Storm has very high uptime when paired with Abhorrent Decrepify, but we'll get into that a little bit later. The boots, movement speed, corpse tendrils, I would say those are mandatory. You can probably skip the movement speed after killing an elite if you can't get it. It's difficult to get both movement speeds on there, but you really want a high movement speed roll. The corpse tendrils is extremely important as well. It reduces the cooldown of corpse tendrils. It goes from like 12 seconds or something down to 6 seconds on my pair here, and I don't even have all my points put into it. And for the aspects, we've got Skeletal Warriors on there as well. You could maybe drop this one. The Skeletal Warriors don't do a heap of damage. Maybe, up to you. For the weapon here, we have a 2-handed scythe. The 2-handed scythe is the best choice out of all of them. Your minions damage scales off your weapon's damage per hit, not your weapon's damage per second. So if you're using a one-handed weapon, you are dealing half the damage. Doesn't matter if the weapon attacks twice as fast, your minions have their own attack speed and their damage scales off of your weapon's damage per hit. So the scythe is the slowest attacking weapon with the highest damage per hit, therefore it is the best choice. You could argue that the sword is better because it has the implicit crit damage on there. Minions just don't scale that well with crit damage, so I went for the Scythe. Plus, the minions also get the life on kill, and 300 life on kill is a lot. It keeps them alive a lot. Like, if there's a big pack of monsters, these minions, they could be healing for, God, I don't know, 10,000 life per minute. It's a lot. You know, you're killing a lot of monsters there. As for the aspect, we have the attack speed one on here. Now, I believe this is actually bugged. Well, we think it's bugged. And I've got to give a quick shout out to Creparian and Dry Bear Gaming, I think it is. They've done a lot of minion testing. I've watched a lot of hours of Creparian streams. And that's how I've managed to put this build together. So thank you to you guys if you ever happen to watch these videos. I highly doubt it. But we believe this aspect is bugged at the moment. If you're attacking a boss and after 3 seconds this attack speed buff wears out, it doesn't regenerate unless your minions attack another monster. So there's only one monster around, this aspect doesn't do a whole lot. As for the gems in here, don't ask me why I have topazes in there. They should not be in there. The jewellery we have over here, movement speed I would say is mandatory. Unfortunately, I have a really low roll on this one. It's only 18%. It goes up to 26%. So the higher the movement speed, the better, because Necromancers are notoriously slow. Cooldown reduction is important for Bone Storm and Corpse Tendrils, so make sure you get that. Armor is really nice. I don't know what else I would have on there. Maybe percentage increased intelligence would be a better option over the armor. And for the fourth stat, I have amplified damage on there, which is nice, but also not the best. You could go for Hellbent Commander instead. Amplify is decent though, and it's also a good amulet for many builds as well. So I could use this amulet for other builds if I wanted to, I think. The aspect on there we have is skeleton damage. So if you wanted to, you could perhaps put the skeleton damage on your weapon instead, as this aspect on our weapon is bugged. That might be the better choice, but I just don't have another one of these aspects to swap it out at the moment. For the rings, we have here life for me, life for the minions, crit chance and crit damage. This is the only other source of minion life that I have on my gear. They don't die very often, and I think it's because I've got about 90% minion life just on 2 slots on my gear here. Just the ring and the pants over here, if you remember. Keeps them alive a lot for only 2 slots. I think it's worth it. One thing to note is, I've already said it, but minions don't scale with criticals that well. Vulnerable damage would be the better choice. You really should have vulnerable damage on your rings, because minions get 100% of your vulnerable damage instead of 30% like every other stat. This ring is a bit more. This ring's a bit better. We've got the vulnerable on there. We've got the crit chance, the crit damage, and the maximum life. If you can't get the crit chance and the crit damage with good rolls, then perhaps you could go for damage to close, damage to distant, damage to crowd control. If you can get that on jewelry, I'm not sure, but either of those would be good stats as well. And as for the aspects on these, we have the Shadow Blight aspect on this one, and the other Shadow Blight aspect on this one. Book of the Dead, real quick, is Skeleton Reapers. This is mandatory. We need corpses everywhere for Corpse Explosion. As for the mages, we have Shadow Mages. Now, I went for the fire and additional bolt every 5th attack. For any Path of Exile players, that should equate to a 20% more multiplier if every 5th attack does an extra attack. It's really, really hard to scale minion damage, so to get a 20% more multiplier on our Shadow Mage's damage is huge. Golems, we went for the Bone Golem. Its basic attack is an AoE cleave, which does damage in about 180 degree radius or thereabouts. So if we Corpse Tendrils on top of ourselves and the Bone Golem's just in here attacking everything with every basic attack, it does a lot of AoE damage. It's really nice. The Iron Golem does have a special attack, which is an AoE slam, which also makes them vulnerable. That's really nice, but its basic attack is not a cleave, so we're going with the Bone Golem on this one. Out of these two choices, I don't know what's better. I just went for the Thorns damage. It's really up to you. I don't know if this is any good or not. I don't know. Take whatever you want. Now we'll go into our abilities. We'll start with the skill tree, and we'll start from the top. 2 points into here because we have to, and I've got Blight in here. I found myself with nothing to do, so I figured I'd put some Blights down, and it also increases the damage our minions deal. I don't know if they get 15% increased damage or if they get 5% increased damage, because they normally get 30% of all their damage. I don't know which one it is, but just gives me something to do. Extra corpses on bosses, that's good for keeping corpse tendrils up. Honestly, could probably get rid of that one. Don't know if it's that good. A little bit of Thorns damage. This is nice in certain situations. You don't have to have it, but it does come in handy every now and then. It's just a little bit more damage. Yeah. By a little bit, I mean it's a little bit. It's not much at all. We do not run Blood Mist, as many builds do. Reason for that being just Bone Storm with the Bone Storm barrier and the extra armor per hit. It just makes us so tanky. It makes us so tanky. I rarely die when I'm running. I only run tier 50s. I'm not pushing high tier Nightmare Dungeons, not doing 70s or 80s or 90s or anything like that. But in tier 50s, I rarely die as it is. I just don't think Blood Mist is necessary if you're playing softcore like me. If you're playing hardcore, then it's a no-brainer. A couple points into Skeletal Warriors, keep them alive a bit better. That's always good. Amplify damage, always good. And we have extra 3 points in there from the amulet, which I showed earlier. Decrepify, just a great skill all round, slows enemies. And then we have this one here, Abhorrent Decrepify. This is massive. This is absolutely massive. If you check the footage at the end of this video, you'll see the cooldowns on my corpse tendrils and the Bone Storm. I almost have permanent uptime when I'm in combat on Bone Storm. In fact, in some situations I do have permanent uptime. Just running between packs is the only time I don't have uptime on Bone Storm. Skeletal Mage Mastery, very important. We have these points here as the, I think I actually forgot to mention it, but we have this aspect here in our gloves. This turns Bone Storm into a darkness skill, which procs all of these. Could also go for this one here for lucky hit, chance to stun enemies. That could be a good one. Maybe you got rid of Thorns damage there, or hewed flesh. That's probably not a bad idea now that I think about it. On here we have Necrotic Carapace, just permanent fortify for us. We are almost always fortified because our Skeletal Reapers are making corpses left, right and center. Golem life, Golem damage, pretty important. I've got to say, I don't think I've ever seen my Golem go below 90% health. He is always alive. He's always alive. And we've got all the points here into the minion stuff. Minion damage, minion life, minion healing, more minion damage. I did take Hellbent Commander. Some people don't take it, but I find that I'm on top of the monsters a lot. You'll see in the footage, I'm basically standing in the middle of them. So this is just 30% damage for the Golem and the Skeletal Warriors. We use Bone Storm, as I mentioned, and we use Shadow Blight, as I think I mentioned. If I didn't mention it, you probably figured it out by the aspects on my jewellery. As for the Paragon points, little disclaimer, this isn't optimized at all. I made this about a week ago, and it's just where I left it. A lot of the points, well, not a lot, but some of the points, like all these ones here, I'm not sure how much they actually do. They could be spent elsewhere. You could go to another board. I even had another board up over here at one point, and I forgot to refund them. I'll do it now. There you go. So we start off, and first of all we go into vulnerable damage for the glyph, which is really nice, just 31% more vulnerable damage. I think I said it before, you have to forgive me if I didn't. This is my third time recording. Our minions gain 100% of our vulnerable damage, so this is a really important glyph. The next one here, we have the Hulking Monstrosity. This is the Golem board, and in the glyph socket here we have the Skeletal Mage's damage. This is up to 162%, and it's actually not leveled up all the way yet. This is level 18, so it'll be like it'll be maybe 175% skeletal mage's damage when I'm finished leveling it up. Really strong spot for that glyph. Over here to the right, we have the Flesh Eater board, and in the glyph socket we have damage to crowd controlled enemies. This is basically every enemy. As we're casting Decrepify on the enemies, they are always crowd controlled. It also gives 20% damage to chilled and frozen enemies, as well as stunned enemies. I'm not sure if I have any sources of that, but if you're using the cold mages, that does do a little bit there. And finally, the last board here, we have the extra effect to minion damage and damage reduction modifiers. This does quite a lot, and for some reason, I just took some dexterity off. Where's some dexterity? There we go. There it is. Okay. So this gives 31% damage reduction for our minions. That's really big. That's really big. Just for this one glyph socket. I mean, maybe there's another damage one you could go for, but the skeletons do die a little bit in tier 50s. Not a heap, but if you forget to heal them for 10 seconds or so, then they're going to start dropping. But just a really solid glyph to put in this socket here. And I think that's it. Is that it? Am I recording this time? Who knows? I'll find out when I go stop it. If you guys like the video, if you like making minion builds, if you got the itch like I do and you still don't have the Ring of Mendeln, then give this a go. If you're still not sure, then you can check out the footage that's going to be following. Actually, the footage should be on your screen right now, if I'm being honest, if my editing is any good. If you liked it, give us a like, give us a sub, maybe I'll make another video. Fingers crossed our minions get buffed in Season 1. We don't have the patch notes out just yet, but I can't imagine they nerf it. Hopefully they nerf Bone Spear and they give us a little buff. I would love it if our minions got about 100% more damage. That'd be about right. I feel like their survivability is pretty good, but really hard to scale their damage well. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.